Well, let's talk about this for a minute, because you're in NXT, but it's developmental. You're in developmental.
Yeah.
You're getting rave reviews from the trainers. Your matches are getting all this attention. You're changing things up every night. You're working this hard. Everything's cooking. So then you go to the main roster. Who the fuck didn't see what the fuck was going on with you guys? Because you went from the shining example of modern tag team wrestling in NXT to what the fuck are they doing to those guys? You couldn't be heels because you had too much sympathy from the fans, like when the Midnight Express were baby faces. And they knew we needed to turn back heel. We couldn't ever win a fucking match. We finally switched back heel and the people cheer. It's like, oh, finally they're going to use them again. You guys had sympathy heat from the fans for how they were booking you. What the fuck went wrong?
I think they hired Jim Herd. I think that's what happened. I'm not sure. But no, the thing is it was almost as bad as Jim Herd. Vince was still there, so that's the problem. And I know, and believe me, you can have your opportunity to vent all you like, because we do promote freedom of speech here on The Experience. But even the Vince that I knew, we keep talking about this when I see the programs now. The Vince that I knew would have cussed at the Vince of today, because he's doing things that the other Vince long ago would have said no is not right. So what went on? Jim, like exactly what you just said. A lot of those guys that are producers there now that were working for the company in 94, 95, 96, they said the exact same thing that you just said. I remember after one of our matches, a producer came up to us and he said, there's not a tag team in the world that is better than you guys. There's not very many workers in the world that are better than you guys. I don't know what is wrong with Vince. I don't know what's going on with Vince. This is not the Vince that I worked for. And they finished with they finished with the typical keep working hard and you'll get where you want to go. But I'm not exactly sure. Vince, he has his the things that he likes and he has the things that he doesn't like, and that's okay. We weren't his, and we told him this too on our last meeting. We know we're not his cup of tea. He laughed at it and, tried to shrug it off, but we told him, we know we're not your cup of tea, Vince, and that's okay. We're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And we're not going to please everybody, and we're not here to please everybody. But what we do know is that there's nobody better than us, and we're going to work harder than anybody in the company. And it just didn't pan out that way. I'm going on a little bit of a rant. So I'm sorry, Cash.
That's fine.
We had a match with our New Day. All four of us came to the back, and we were so proud of this match, and we loved it so much. And we were happy because it wasn't an action-packed match. It was a match that told a great little story. The fans got behind it, and they loved it. And we came to the back, and Vince was waiting right in the middle of Gorilla with his hands in his pocket. Of course, Johnny Ace was agreeing with everything he said. And Vince said one thing that I'll never forget. He said, he looked at me and Cash, and he said, "Everyone tells me you're the next Arn and Tully. You're the next great tag team." Well, that's the problem. You guys are on Arn and Tully. You're great. You're just great professional wrestlers. And to me and Cash, we took that, beaming with pride. Yeah. He meant it as an insult.
Yeah, he meant it
as an insult. And so I'm thinking to myself, so you're comparing us to two of the greatest of all time who have drawn a shit ton of money in this business, and you're meaning it as an insult? So to wrap it all up, he just didn't get us. He didn't understand us, and that's perfectly fine that he didn't. It's his company, it's his money, and he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I'll keep mine pretty short because I don't have the answer. I don't know what it was about us that he didn't like, or that somebody didn't like, or didn't see anything in. But we're not the first, we won't be the last. So I wish I had some sort of answer. I wish I had some sort of closure on it, where I could say definitively, this is what it was. It's our fault for this, or it's that fault for that. But I'll never know. So I'll always wonder what could have been, but I'm not going to dwell on it either.
Part of the problem today is that there was no way to quantify how you were getting over besides the rave reviews of the trainers and or the fans that cared to write in, but nothing is measured by gates anymore because nobody technically really draws the money. And even on pay-per-view now, you can't really quantify Brock Lesnar's contribution to the pay-per-view gate because there is it's there, but it's negligible. It's all about streaming and television network, etc. But in the territory days, if the booker used a team or an individual and the house was up, they used them more often, regardless of whether they particularly liked them personally or not, or whether they were their cup of tea. And you could easily tell every week, if the house is up, we're going to do more of this. The house is down, we need to find some different people. And now there's no way to show that. You couldn't actually, and because of the manner in which the television show was written, you couldn't even show ratings success, much less box office success for your great matches, because I think all of the great matches that you had on television were on NXT before they had television, weren't they? The stuff on Raw was a little shorter and more abbreviated and broken up with breaks and whatever the fuck. But I mean, who was trying to pull for you there? Were there any tag team saviors in your corner up there?
Oh man, Jim, there were. Yeah, there were a ton of guys, and it was, not just tag teams. Arn told us and Fit Finley told us that every single producer on every live event had rave reviews for our matches. And then we would have opportunities with top guys on television, on TV. And we would watch them. We watched Roman Reigns. We watched Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. We watched the greatest wrestler they have there right now. We watched Randy Orton.
Randy.
We watched them all. Yeah, Randy. We watched them all go up to Vince after matches and bring us over and say, we want to work with these guys. And we were, if you go back and look, and this is the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit, is the fans, they just look at the story part of our career and they say, oh, well, they got to work with Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, and they got 3 championship reigns. But what they don't understand is we got to work with Roman Reigns for 2 weeks. We beat Roman Reigns on television in tag team matches 2 weeks. We put him down with the Shatter Machine for 2 weeks. And then the next week, nothing. It was taken away. The same thing with Matt and Bray.
We weren't on for the next 3 weeks.
Right, exactly. We just completely taken away. The same thing with Matt and Bray. The same with Randy, who has become one of our mentors and one of our really close friends, who we talk to every single day. He fought for us so hard to get us on TV with him every single week because he believed in our work ethic and he believed in what we brought to the table. And we watched him go to Vince every single week, or Hunter or whoever, and say, we've got to keep this up. And it was multiple guys, the Usos, New Day. I mean, it was a ton of these guys that went to Vince and said, we want to work with these guys, and they would let us work with them, and then they take it away. For example, we were working with the Usos, and we did the stuff where they put Usi Hot on our balls, which is fine. We wanted to do that. And then 2 weeks later, after this angle started gaining some steam, they took us away and put us with Shane because Shane wanted to work with us. And then they took us away from Shane and put us back with the Usos a couple of weeks later. But instead of there being any heat behind it, they just put us in wrestling matches. So everything that we gained from working with these top guys who wanted to work with us, we would lose because of the hot and cold booking.
And, well, I just say, real quickly, it's booking 101. This is not revolutionary, that if you start doing something with somebody, you keep it up regardless. But do you think it was bone throwing? Was it not? They were, okay, we'll throw them a bone. We'll let them do something, but we don't really mean it.
Not for a lot of it. I feel like it was because of merit. Because a lot of the, like Zach said, a lot of the guys pushed for it. But
I mean, that's what I'm saying. At the top, the creative team has to be, okay, all these guys are complaining because they want to see the best wrestlers we've got wrestle, and they want to work with them. So we'll give it to them for a week or two, but we don't really mean it. So we're not going to keep going with it. And that's not the way to push anybody.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, he's serious. That's the honest to God truth.
I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I feel like, and it's not anybody's fault really, but there's no long-term vision for a lot of the booking. So like, honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to bury anybody here. Like, you don't know what you're doing that day, much less the next week. So like, you find out what you're doing sometimes at 5 or 6 o'clock before you go live at 8. And okay, well, where's this going? We don't know. We'll have to figure it out. So it's hard. It's hard to keep any consistency or any sort of momentum when nobody knows.
Well, that's a problem coming from somebody who's been in both sides. I've either been the booker all alone, or I've been on booking teams, not as big as they have now with these creative teams, but you don't have a plan for the future unless there's one person an assistant, or one person and maybe 1 or 2 assistants. When you've got 30 writers, you have no plan, but you don't have a plan for 8 o'clock at 6 o'clock. Like you just said, it's too much.
Yeah. And 8 o'clock would roll around. And I remember there was a time we were in, were we in MSG whenever it was like 8:15 and we were supposed to have like a deal with Randy and New Day. It was 8:15 and the plans had changed. It was the time where Kofi was going to get his deal back with Randy.
Through the table.
Jump off through the table. At 8:15, the plan had changed 3 times, but we were told, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we were going to be with Randy. At 8:15, it changed, and we were completely off the show. And I think we were supposed to be on a pay-per-view within the next couple of weeks with those guys.
No, it was that week. That was the go home
that week. Yep. Yeah, it was just like Cash said, and I don't want to harp on this because I have no ill feelings towards WWE. I'm looking at my wife and my daughter outside right now. They're playing on a swing set that I got to pay for because of WWE. So I owe them everything that I have. But, in the grand scheme of things, as far as the business goes, it was very difficult to have to deal with that every single week.